What's good, folks? Family, friends, loved ones, enemies, frenemies, wizards, witches, muggles, mudbloods, people of Middle Earth to another episode of Disguised Coverage, the only podcast in existence that gives you an equal amount of blueberries in each muffin and presented by the best pizza in Buffalo, New York, One Pie Pizza. I'm your host, Anthony Prohaska. Find me on Twitter at pro__ant. That's pro, two underscores, A-N-T. Also find me on the TikTok, same exact handle, pro, two underscores, A-N-T. In tonight's episode, it's been a day for Bills fans, for the Buffalo Bills organization, but there's still a game to be played this week, and an important one for the Buffalo Bills and for their opponent, the New York Jets. With that in mind, I have a terrific guest on for the front segment of this episode to provide us insight into the New York Jets on and off the field, to kind of preview some things and set the table for the back half of this episode, where we are going to dive into some game tape and some advanced metrics for the Buffalo Bills and the New York Jets to really put this game into focus where it needs to be and dive into the specific matchups that are really going to decide this game and put this game again into perspective. We're also going to discuss the Von Miller news that dropped today, and we're also going to take a look at AJ Epenesa, Gregory Rousseau, and Boogie Basham, and look at some plays from them that highlight what they've been this year in terms of being able to potentially mitigate the loss of Von Miller going forward. All of that will be happening in this episode. But like I mentioned, to lead off this episode, got a tremendous guest. I'm going to welcome onto the show Mr. Andy Vasquez of the Star Ledger and of NewJersey.com. Andy, I know you're a busy man. I sincerely thank you for taking the time to join me tonight, and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to talking about a big game on Sunday. Don't usually get to do that in December when you cover the Jets, so it's a nice change of pace.
It's a wild turnaround. You know, you and I were talking a little bit off air and just about the quarterback situation, but also that's a good piece as well. Like, it's after the season the Jets had last year and then the start to this year, I feel like if you're a Jets fan or even covering the Jets, it's kind of like, well, here we go again. And wasn't a lot of buzz around this team, but they've had some quality wins. They've had some unfortunate losses considering where they would like to be. And yeah, there's a lot of buzz around this team, and you're pretty lucky to be covering them at this point, I guess, all things considered. Just in case people aren't familiar with your work, tell them who you are, what you do, where they can find you, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I work for NJ.com, so it's pretty easy. It's NJ.com /Jets. That's where you can find all of our Jets coverage. And I'm on Twitter at Andy_Vasquez and on Instagram at by Andy Vasquez. And yeah, this is my 7th season covering the Jets. I think before this year, they had been over 500 for like a combined 2 weeks in those the first 6 years. So they've been over 500 since like September or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is uncharted territory, but it's a nice change of pace, and obviously still a lot to be decided here in the final 5 weeks.
Very, very massively important end of the season for the Jets, not just in terms of this season, but honestly, like going forward. And, that's where we're going to start. Zach Wilson doesn't play ideally for him or for the Jets, really, to start this year and throughout the midpoint. Doesn't say the right things, like we were talking about off air after one of his poor performances. And here we are coming into the second game against the Buffalo Bills. This will be the third consecutive start for Mike White, someone who saw time last year and someone who, over these past couple of games, I know the first game was against the Bears and they were a bit depleted on offense and defense. And then you had some weird variables with the rain and all that. But, he's brought some stability to this offense, his ability to keep this team on schedule and process and get through his reads and how that functions within the defense. It's something that I don't want to say he's turned around the Jets offense, but it's brought a little bit of hope and a little bit of spark. I want to start with Mike White. What are your impressions on him or of him these past 2 games, and how has his presence in that offense really changed a bit of how the Jets function offensively?
Well, I mean, let's just say he didn't have a high bar to clear, because in Zach Wilson's final half,
Yeah.
starting against the Patriots, and to be fair, it was a difficult weather day, and it was just a difficult day overall for the Jets. They had 2 yards of total offense in that second half against the Patriots. So,
Yeah.
and obviously he didn't say the right things after the game. So, not a high bar for Mike White to clear, but he's been really good. I mean, not perfect, but 2 straight games with more than 315 yards, which only I think 5 other quarterbacks have done this year, and they're all big names.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of only 3 quarterbacks or 4 quarterbacks since the draft to have, since in the common era of the draft, so that's like since 1967, to have more than 315 yards in his first 5 career starts, uh,
Hmm.
like in multiple games. So, and he just did it in these last 2 games, and obviously he had that big game against the Bengals last year. So, first of
Hmm.
all, the Jets' offense is moving the ball. There's still issues, obviously, against the Vikings last week. They went 1 of 6 in the red zone, and White bears some responsibility for that. But the main thing is that Zach Wilson was missing a bunch of easy throws. And Mike White isn't missing those. And that's just, I think that was kind of the crux of the problem. It's hard enough to, you know, be effective on offense in this league if everything's clicking, as even we've seen for the Jets the last couple of weeks. But if you're not hitting the stuff that's right there in front of you, it's going to be a problem. And you guys saw Zach Wilson a few weeks ago, who played pretty well in the Bills game and hit the open men and made the
Hmm.
simple stuff happen. He still only threw for like 100 and 80 yards. Mike White is hitting the simple throws and also, feeding the right guys and getting them the ball, in situations where they can make plays. If you just look at what Garrett Wilson has done the last couple of
Hmm.
weeks, and that's the biggest thing, is that he's giving his playmakers a chance to make plays, and it's made all of the difference in the world for the Jets offense. And it's going to be interesting to see how it looks on Sunday against the Bills in a tough environment and against a very good defense.
Yeah, I was impressed with him a bit last year, even though I know he got the rap from, I guess, non-Jets fans, or maybe even some Jets fans as well. Just like, oh, he's just checking down. He's just checking it down. But he moves this team. He keeps them on schedule. He operates efficiently. And that's good in and of itself. But even more when you're pairing that with a strong, formidable defense like the New York Jets have. And so now you inject White into this offense, who is not the sexiest and he's not the flashiest, but like you mentioned, his ability to just keep them on schedule and move the team down the field. And something I noticed when watching the tape earlier in the year with Zach Wilson was just he would fixate on his pre-snap read. And if that pre-snap read wasn't there, he was just kind of like panic mode. And then he'd escape. And when he'd escape, things would get worse, which was even worse for him, considering his legs and his big arm and the ability to create off scripture. We're like, man, these are awesome for him. And he wasn't even taking advantage of that. Now you've got a quarterback who can drop back and process and go from 1 to 2 to, oh, no, and check it down. And he keeps you in those 2nd and 6s, 2nd and 5s, and really is, again, able to keep that Jets offense on schedule. I like how he's feeding Garrett Wilson the ball. We've seen a little more Elijah Moore in these couple of weeks, which is nice to see for him and for the Jets. And granted, there's a lot of variables, and I guess this is a bit of a loaded question, but does Mike White have a path to not only finishing this year as the starter, but potentially coming back in 2023 as the starter? Like, this is a position grouping that is now all of a sudden like, is Zach Wilson the guy of the future? Can it be Mike White? If it's not Mike White, do they look to a quarterback in the first round next year? That, I guess, it all starts with Mike White. And yeah, does he have a path to finishing this year and coming back as the starter next year?
Well, there's definitely a path to finishing this year as the starter because there's only 5 games left, and Jets are in the middle of a playoff race. So he plays well for 1 or 2 more games. This is how you're not going to be able to take him out. And I think even if he struggles on Sunday against Buffalo, he's got a little bit of a leash now, just
Okay.
because he's proven himself. And as for next year, that's a more complicated question. I mean, there's a path, but he probably have to take the Jets pretty far in the playoffs to
Okay.
guarantee himself a starting job. I mean, Zach Wilson's still under contract. He's only going to be going in his 3rd year next year, so they can't cut him. It would cost them an insane amount of money, both in dead cap, and then it would, accelerate more money onto the cap next year. They're not going to do that. Maybe they can trade him, but we all know that Joe Douglas doesn't like to trade guys for less than what he
Mhm.
thinks they're worth, and you're not going to get what you think Zach Wilson's talent's worth right now, given everything that's transpired. So I think more likely than not, there's a path for Mike White to get himself into a legitimate competition for the starting job next year, to get himself traded to a place where he can be a starter next year. But the Jets aren't going to be picking in a position where they're going to be able to draft one of the top quarterbacks next year. They've already won 7 games. They're probably going to win at least 1 or 2 more. Uh, they don't have all the picks that they've had in years past because they use them to get the guys on this year's team. It's going to be a situation where, if they pick a quarterback, which I think they're going to have to either way, because you can't go into next year with Zach Wilson as the guy,
Mhm.
given what's happened. It's going to be a later quarterback, and then now you have questions about the Jets' judgment in picking quarterbacks, because obviously they were all in on Wilson and a number 2 pick 19 months ago, and now he's watching a playoff race from the bench. So a lot of questions moving forward, but yeah, there is a path certainly for the rest of the season and certainly to be in a competition next year.
I guess kind of on the flip side with that, and I know you're working on an article on Zach Wilson now. Is Zach Wilson's time as the starter for this team, like, how close is it to being done? Has obviously, I don't think the nail's in the coffin. He hasn't had that death knell, but is it close to being like out of his grasp? Are we looking forward to the Jets these next couple of years, thinking like Zach Wilson's done, or do you think he gets some chance at some point?
Depends on a lot of things. Depends on how Mike White plays. It depends on if there's injuries. I mean, there's still like he's an injury away from getting another shot this year. I mean that's the truth. And again, it's going to be hard for him not to be on the roster next year.
Yep.
So I think the story is not over. I mean, Robert Saleh has been adamant that they want to get him back out there. Again, if that happens this year, it's going to be because Mike White struggles. If Mike White doesn't open the door for him, he's not going to be contributing to a potential playoff run, and that's got to be a big blow for Wilson. I mean, there's a lot of questions. I mean, mentally, he's got to overcome. This is not an ideal situation. He's got to
Mhm.
fix the mechanical stuff and the stuff you talked about. He gets stuck on the first read or on the pre-snap read too often. There's too many times where he's not getting through his progressions, not seeing guys uh, that are there to make plays, not getting the ball to his playmakers, or not making the throws he needs to make. So there's a lot of stuff he needs to fix. I think he's got an immense amount of talent, but it got to a point where the Jets believed it was best for the franchise and for Zach Wilson. I believe that too. Like everybody talks about, you're going to lose this guy if you bench him. Well, I think if you kept trotting him out there and he comes out and continues to struggle against teams like the Bears and the Vikings who don't have the best secondaries, like where do you go from there? This is kind of to protect him in a way and kind of give him a chance to, maybe not take all the heat that he's been getting. Some of it deserved, and then some of it is just like comes with the territory of being a number two pick. But it's like,
Mhm.
he didn't physically hurt anybody. He just played poorly and said the wrong things. And it was a lot of criticism. I mean, it was like overwhelming. So if it's 23 years old, you kind of feel for him, but this is what comes with being an NFL quarterback, and it's a tough job, and there's a lot of uncertainty. I don't think his story is written or over, but it's hard to come back from this. It's not easy, and um, history tells us that it's an uphill battle for him moving forward.
Yeah, and especially with when you couple the poor play on the field with like the potential less than ideal comments off of it, then you add in further variables with like, okay, how does the locker room feel about him? Like, or how do the players feel, coaches, so on and so forth. It just adds to your point, like a situation that isn't easy for anyone and is very much less than ideal for a franchise that spent a significant pick on this guy. And not only on that guy, but they basically had like the pick of all those quarterbacks in that draft, that ability to have that number two spot. And that Zach Wilson was their guy. They ID'd him. But again, with how he was playing and then everything that came, from the extracurricular activities off the field, kind of reining him back in and kind of, taking two steps back to potentially go forward could be in the cards for him. Well said. Well said. And another interesting piece for this Jets team and on the offensive side has been the emergence of Zonovan Knight the last couple of weeks. I liked him at NC State, and he showed well that this backfield in general has just been so intriguing to me. When they took Brees Hall, I like Brees Hall a lot, but I really liked Michael Carter, and I like Ty Johnson as well. But they took Brees Hall, and then when Brees went down, I was okay, cool. Now it's going to be the Michael Carter show. Then they bring in James Robinson. And then because of some injuries and things, Zonovan Knight has emerged. You wrote an article on Zonovan Knight, highlighting him being one of the guys down the stretch that could be important for this team. Michael Carter practiced in full today, but talk about Zonovan Knight. He's impressed the staff. Robert Saleh had good things to say about him, and in terms of like his role on this team. Do you think he's carved out a role for himself in this backfield when and if Michael Carter returns, from injury to his full time status?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you just look at his production, he's already you know, been more productive than Carter has been at any point this season. Now Carter hasn't probably had as much of a chance to be lead back, but Carter has had a few games there,
Mm.
and he capitalized on his opportunity. I mean, he's the first undrafted guy in a long time. I think Philip Lindsay with the Broncos is the only other one who's had more than 100 yards from scrimmage in his first two games in the last like 50 years. It's been really impressive what he's been able to do and kind of how he's uh, he seems to wear down defenses. He's done a lot of
Mm,
this in the second half, and this is a guy who made the 53-man roster, got cut, got signed to the practice squad, was on the practice squad until Brees Hall got hurt, and then was inactive for like 5 or 6 games before finally 2 weeks ago against the Bears getting his shot, and he
mm,
capitalized on it. And Salah said he loves his speed, um, and that I think he hit like four. Salah said the GPS showed he hit like a 4.39 type speed on that big run he had the other day, and when
okay.
Salah was asked if he's carved out a role going forward, he said, "Oh yeah, he's not going anywhere." So I
Okay.
think you could count on him probably getting the bulk of the carries, being the lead guy on Sunday, especially with Carter coming back from an injury. And I think he's a real threat to maybe be the number two guy next year when Brees Hall comes back. I mean, it's a lot of
Mm,
football left to play. It's only 2 games, but you're seeing um, explosive playmaking potential there. That Michael Carter is a nice back, but he doesn't do that. He makes guys
mm,
miss, but he doesn't have that kind of speed. And I think that is not just encouraging for the long term for the Jets, but really encouraging for this stretch of games after they became a team that really, given their defense, relies on controlling the clock and moving the ball on offense and trying to kind of grind out games. And Zonovan Bam Night, his nickname's Bam. He's already proven that he can do that. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can keep it up and how the Jets utilize him moving forward.
Brees Hall was crushing it to start this year, and he goes down, and it's just like, okay, not only what are they going to do, but he was just the focal point with what he was able to do with explosive plays as a receiver,
Yeah,
explosive plays in the run game, his ability to create off script. I still have the one in my head, the touchdown against the Packers where he's supposed to hand it off on the reverse, but recognizes it's not there, and then basically just carves up the whole Packer
it's
defense
awesome.
for
Yeah,
it was beautiful. And he goes down, and you're thinking, okay, what can they do to mitigate that loss? And then Carter goes down. And it's just like, okay, again. But yeah, Zonovan Knight's added a nice physical presence. He's added some burst, which, like you mentioned, like Salah loves that. Defensive coaches are going to love a strong run game, especially when you're pairing it with a quarterback you're trying to integrate in further and make things easier for. Now, all of a sudden, the under center play action game becomes more available. It makes things easier for Mike White to diagnose. Yeah, I've liked what I've seen on tape from Zonovan Knight in conjunction with Zonovan Knight. Can't talk about a run game or anything on offense really without the offensive line. This Jets offensive line has been a bit cursed this year, starting before the season even started with what you had happen to Becton and then AVT. Now, Jets get news today, again, a much maligned group already with injuries, but the Jets announced today that right tackle Max Mitchell is out for the year. What do you expect the Jets to do up front in terms of how they kind of patchwork this offensive line together for this game and even potentially going forward, considering all the injuries that they've had and all the depth that's been tested up there?
yeah, it's not going to have much of an impact unless somebody else gets hurt on Sunday because Mitchell struggled against the Vikings and got benched after 25 snaps for George Fant, who had been on IR for 8 weeks and just came back last week. So weirdly enough, Sunday will be the first time that the two guys who are projected to start a tackle after training camp are actually going to start the same game, and that's Dwayne Brown
Yeah.
and George Fant.
Wild that we're
So
saying that like 14 weeks into
yeah,
the
yeah,
season.
here
Just
we are. So I mean, Mitchell and Fant and Brown, they're three of the six guys who've started this year at tackle. I know Elijah Vera Tucker's another one. I'm not gonna be able to pull it off the top of my head, but it's just been
but that's a piece right there though. Like you have to go through a Rolodex of
yeah,
names to figure out who's played at
it's
tackle.
it's crazy. And then you remember Mekhi Becton was obviously supposed to be a starter this season. He was injured earlier in the year, so it's been a really rough you know season for the Jets in terms of the offensive line. But they've done a pretty good job of piecing something together, and obviously it shows in the run game. And that Mike White dealt with some pressure the other day, but he's not the most mobile guy, and I think he only got sacked once. So um, it's they've been able to figure it out. And where the issue is if they suffer an injury, then you got Mike Remmers is going to be the swing tackle, and you got two guys in their 30s starting at tackle, and um, there's a lot of meaningful football left for the Jets to play. So they're kind of in a
Yeah.
tough spot in terms of depth, but they should be able to get through this game if they can stay healthy. It's not going to be that big of a deal. But yeah, another injury for the offensive line, but at this point they're used to dealing with it, so I wouldn't expect it to affect much on Sunday.
Copy. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Let's flip focus to the defensive side of the ball. Talking the secondary, Sauce Gardner, and rightfully so, has been the story at corner for the Jets this year. One of the best rookies, not just defensively, but across the league. And I don't think it's too, far out of the realm from initial expectation for him. His tape was fantastic at Cincinnati, and he came in and just transitioned seamlessly to the NFL game, and his fit in Salah's defense and fit physically, mentally, everything that he's done. But on the other side, free agent acquisition DJ Reed, he's had a good year as well and has been a very solid number 2 corner. Got into it a little bit post game on social media with Justin Jefferson this past week, but he maintained I liked how he went at him, but then kind of just said, you know what, you're right, good game, blah, blah, blah. I know I had a safety shading over the top, so on and so forth. So keeping his cool off the field, but keeping his cool on the field as well. He's proven to be a solid acquisition for this defense. Talk a little bit about DJ Reed and what he's added to this defense, because I feel like his positive performances have been, and I don't think this is a knock against him or really that unexpected, have been largely overshadowed by Sauce Gardner and how well he's performed. But again, DJ Reed's put together some good games, and it's not really getting talked about a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Robert Saleh tries to talk about it a lot because, obviously Sauce Gardner with the nickname and the pedigree and playing super well has gotten a lot of, credit for what he's done. But DJ Reed has been just as good and probably better than Sauce Gardner, at this point in the season. And, he's playing at an extremely high level. I mean, the Jets signed him, he had been a solid corner in Seattle, but he's kind of taken it to a Pro Bowl / all pro type level. I mean, I don't have the analytics in front of me, but they're good. He's been really good. And you can just see it. He doesn't make many mistakes. Even the touchdown that he gave up the other day, I mean, he was right there with him. It's tough to cover that guy.
And it was a good throw by Cousins too. He
Yeah.
put it right on to the sideline in the end zone there, and then Jefferson came out and met it. I didn't even know how. I knew it was a touchdown before I saw it. But watching the tape, I was like, it's the same thing. I was like, wow, he's right there. But Jefferson just created enough separation and Cousins put it on the dot, and it was what it was.
Yeah, I mean, he's really good. And they got into it a little bit after the game because he said he was in his, stuff.
Yeah.
But, you know what he said. But
Yeah.
and I mean, they held him to 45 yards, which, considering the guy has gone for like more than 100 in like 7 of his last 8 games.
He did it to the Bills, big time.
Yeah, they were. So I mean, Reed wasn't knocking him. He just said they felt like they were proud of the way they were able to mostly contain him, but also disappointed that they'd given up the one big play. And the other thing about DJ Reed that I think people don't realize or talk about enough is that, like, how much of an impact he's had on Sauce. I mean, he's not that much older. He's like 4 or 5 years older, but I mean, he's a proven guy, a guy who is really dedicated to his craft and has been a good sounding board for Sauce in this year, and a guy who he can go to and they're very close. And I think that's really made Sauce's transition to this level of football and keeping the focus on what's important a lot easier for him. And the kid is Sauce is everything is advertised. He's not. He seems like a really nice kid. He seems super focused on football. He has this weird mix of complete self-confidence, but also he's super humble and down to earth. It's going to be interesting to see, how it all progresses as he becomes, obviously a national story and everything that comes with that. But I mean, he's been on the field and off the field, everything the Jets could have hoped for to this point, which is it's been huge. I mean, the Jets had one of the worst cornerback groups in the league last year, and now they can go into games relying on that group, and it makes them a very, very tough matchup, and it makes everything their defensive line can do. They're able to do it because they have confidence that these guys are going to be able to cover wide receivers for as long as it takes to get to the quarterback.
Yeah, that's a great point with how they've contributed to, again, this overall defense that is a good defense on the year, 5th in DVOA and 4th in weighted DVOA, adding, emphasis to recent games. They're 5th in DVOA against the pass, 11th against the run, and just what you've gotten from Sauce and his emergence, the quality you've gotten from Reed, the additions at safety, CJ Mosley being healthy, Quincy Williams adding quality snaps, Quan Alexander, and then Quinnen Williams up front just being a monster, and then Carl Lawson coming back healthy, and Jonathan Franklin Myers giving you quality reps, and Huff giving you a presence off the edge. He's the one that beat Quessenberry in the last game against the Bills and hit Josh Allen on that elbow. They've gotten contributions from all levels of the defense, and yeah, just a tremendous transformation for a group that last year, I think it was like, okay, Saleh comes in. He's got this reputation coming from San Francisco, and the Jets defense significantly underperforms. But they come into this past offseason with the draft and free agency and really target players that Saleh wants, fits his scheme and his system. And you're seeing the benefits being reaped before our eyes as a real quality unit from front to back. And they're able to beat you with coverage. They're able to beat you with pass rush. And they play physical, fast, and angry. It's a quality group coached by, again, a really quality coach. Speaking of quality, Andy, you were quality on this episode with me tonight. Again, I know you're super busy. You're running everywhere today, and I know you've got a story that you got to, get down to brass tacks and pump out. But I sincerely thank you very much for taking the time, joining me, your insight, your knowledge, your candor, everything. Thank you so much. And just in case, again, people are joining us now, tell them who you are, where they can find you, and everything that you do.
Yep, Andy Vasquez with NJ.com, and it's pretty obvious how to get to that website. And it's Andy_Vasquez and on Twitter, and then by Andy Vasquez on Instagram. So, yep, that's where you can find my work. And thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it, and looking forward. Hope you guys give us some good weather in Buffalo this weekend. I haven't looked yet, but
it's not supposed to be too bad. Saturday's supposed to be better than Sunday. Sunday's a little dicey, but it's not too crazy. So yeah, fingers crossed for you. And yeah, good luck with everything that you got.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate you having me.
Take care, Andy. Tremendous guest, Mr. Andy Vasquez. Appreciate all the kind words for you folks welcoming Andy and, giving him some shout outs as the episode progressed. I wanted to grab this comment real quick from Pete. Yeah, the number one corner and the number one wide receiver in the draft went to the Jets, in my opinion. I had Stingley ahead of Sauce, but just slightly. But I was fine with them being 1A, 1B. Garrett Wilson was also my number one wide receiver. Drake London was my 2. But that's a very fair statement right there. The Jets have an opportunity with, you got to see what happens with Becton and Elijah Vera Tucker, and it hurts with what's happened with Zach Wilson. But yeah, they've got some pieces with what Quinnen Williams has emerged into now that he's healthy, and what Sauce can potentially be. There's a realistic scenario where next year Sauce's floor is like top 10 corner in the league, like his floor, and his ceiling is like top 5, top 3 type corner with everything that he can do physically and mentally. And then you add Garrett Wilson, you see what you have with Elijah Moore, who had a good rookie year last year. They have the potential to be a real strong, dynamic wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 type of tandem. Then you welcome Breece Hall back if they figure out the quarterback piece. And again, that's a significant piece in the NFL, especially in today's NFL. This Jets team has the potential to really potentially be something going forward, but they got to nail that quarterback piece. But again, they're under good leadership on the field, off the field. They started to build a real quality roster. Again, it helps when you draft well and get players that, somewhat fall into your lap, like they did with Johnson towards the end of the first round. You go out and you get guys, you get significant contributions, and you go from there. It also helps, again, knock on wood, for them to be healthy. CJ Mosley has been banged up these last couple of years. Quinnen Williams, they bring in Carl Lawson last year. He goes down, doesn't play at all. A lot of pieces are starting to come together for this Jets team. But thank you very much to Mr. Andy Vasquez for joining me on tonight's episode. He literally, dude is swamped with a story that he's working on. So I'm tremendously grateful that he took the time to join me on the front half of this episode. We're going to switch into the next segment for this episode. And as we do so, I'm going to show out some love to the sponsor here. One Pie Pizza, the best pizza in Buffalo, New York. Hands down, I promise you, official stamp of approval. The online menu can be found in the episode show notes. Delicious sweet sauce pie, cup of char pepperoni, a great cheese to sauce ratio. They have terrific specialty pies, including the disguised coverage, Allen goat, chicken, goat cheese, some blue cheese crumble or some feta cheese crumble or goat cheese crumble. I'm getting my cheeses all mixed up. Red onion, bacon. It's absolutely tremendous. Also, right now for the holidays, they're doing their Toys for Tots initiative. I've been communicating on Twitter. Again, find me on Twitter at pro__ant. That's pro_ANT, or you can check the One Pie Pizza handle right there at One Pie Pizza WNY. drop off some toys, which is good for the community and good for the children. But also you get your name entered into a raffle where you can win an autographed Bills helmet, autographed by Josh Allen, some Sabres stuff, some pizza stuff. There's a lot of great prizes and opportunities. Check it out at One Pie Pizza, WNY on Twitter, or check out my Twitter handle where I've been pumping that as well. Major shout out to the sponsor, Best Pizza in Buffalo. And again, they're tremendous with what they do in the community to really, help everyone and pay it forward in a lot of ways. So I'm tremendously proud of that partnership, and major shout out to them. Oh, let's shift the conversation a little bit. Actually, let's switch it to here. Dom. And it's John. Dom's a Jets guy. And Dom comes in and says, there's 100 plus people in here, but there's only 20 likes. Smash the like button and give the best Bills content provider on YouTube some love. One, Dom, thank you so much for being here too. Thank you very much for the kind words and the love. I greatly appreciate it. And also the message. Yes, I hate to shill out for it. And I hate to ask for it, but likes are the lifeblood for live streams and YouTube. So please and thank you. If you are enjoying this content, please drop a like on this video. It sincerely goes a long way towards helping myself and the entire team and channel to track and trend in front of more eyes and ears. So please, if you are watching this live now or watching later, post live, please, 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 and thank you. Drop a like on this video. It sincerely goes a long way and is tremendously appreciated. Thank you. Also, feel free to subscribe to Disguise Coverage here on YouTube or on one of the podcasting apps or platforms, and drop a review while you're there as well. Thank you very much for Dom. And as Rich says, yeah, toys for tots are a great thing for kids. They are our future. That is correct. Carl says, are the trees multiplying? I saw some love for the trees earlier. This is the normal year-round tree. We've moved it over here and decorated it with some Christmas garland. You folks know we changed the garland themes within every month. And this is the Play for Keeps Christmas tree. A little snow action here, some red garland, some red ornaments, some other colored ornaments mixed in around. Very proud of the tree game. Very proud of the tree game. I like where John Michael's head is at. He says, I literally logged into my other YouTube account so I could smash that like button twice. I appreciate you gaming the system and gaming the algorithm for me. Many thanks. Sincerely. That's awesome, John Michael. I appreciate you. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Thank you very much. But yes, the trees are multiplying. It's Christmas time. Got to go hard with it. Let's talk about Von Miller. Everybody here, you know how active we are with the live chat here on Disguise Coverage. Let's talk about it. Von Miller, thoughts, concerns, worries. Let's start with that piece. And I don't think there's any easy way to put what happened with the news today of Von Miller going down. For those of you who don't know, in case this is a shock to anyone, as Rich already says, like the Charlie Brown style, ugh. Yeah, Von Miller, they go into his knee today to do some exploratory activity, and turns out it's torn ACL, and he's out for the year. We'll see what the timeline looks like going forward. Is Spin asked right here, how does it go from MCL to ACL? Most likely it was because of how severe the swelling was. You can't really get a good read on an MRI, so they went physically into the knee today to kind of see what was up, and then when they went in, they saw the tear, and thus we are where we are. Again, Von was pretty confident just a couple weeks ago that the swelling was going to go down. It was a lateral meniscus injury. He was hoping to be back by the Jets game, and then it was like, no, they're going to put him on IR, let him, recuperate slowly, and then come back for the playoff stretch. And then again, they went in with that exploratory surgery, and there you go. And a Thanksgiving game clips another member of the Buffalo Bills defense for the second year in a row. Tremendously unfortunate, but this was a guy who, if you're looking at it again holistically at this point, Von Miller was the guy that was brought in theory to take the Buffalo Bills over the top. A tremendous player playing a tremendously important position in football, but also a tremendously important position, especially for the Buffalo Bills, with how much they rely on that front four to generate pressure, but also fit the run. It's part of the reason why the Bills have been able to disguise coverage so well, because they can show two high safety shells pre-snap and do a bunch of things, spinning safeties down after and rotating a variety of coverages on the back end, because they can play with lighter type boxes, because they can fit the run well with their linebackers, but again, with what they do on that front four. And Von Miller, he's known for his pass rush prowess, which is understandable. He's a Hall of Famer, mostly because of that, but he's been a good run defender this year. He's been a good run defender his entire career. And what we're going to dive into now in this piece on the show, we're going to start to look at Gregory Rousseau, AJ Epenesa, and Boogie Basham and see what they could potentially do to mitigate the loss of Von Miller. And this is not to say that his shoes can be filled, because they can't. He was the closer for this defensive line, and he was a player that was basically a walking bucket, a player that you could legitimately trust to win at any time, and a player that offenses had to account for on every play. Replacing him will take a collective performance, but there's some recent positives that we can draw on from the young guns at the edge position. Again, Gregory Rousseau, AJ Epinesa, and Boogie Basham for the Buffalo Bills. We can draw on some of the positive performances they've had these last couple of weeks. Specifically, we're going to dive into some things from the New England Patriots game tape to show what they may be able to work on going forward in potentially mitigating the loss of Von Miller. Not going to focus too much on Shaq Lawson, not because he's not playing well, but at this point, Shaq is what he is. We know he's good on stunts as a looper and as a spiker. We know how good he is at setting the edge against the run. We know how good he is as a force and a spill player. And we know he has somewhat of a limited pass rush upside. He's physical. He's a born in China shop. He had several standout reps against the pass and the run against the New England Patriots. But really looking into Rousseau, Epenesa, and Boogie, wanted to show some clips that highlight the ability that they showed in the New England Patriots game, but that are also indicative of what they've been on the year as a whole. The clips they're going to dive into are who they've been like largely for the entire year, but now it has to change a little bit. And that's where the conversation shifts. They've shown these flashes, right? They've shown an ability. They've popped on tape. They've popped on the broadcast or on game tape. Now the question is, and again, this is a big question, probably the question is, can they increase the frequency of those flashes and display these abilities with more consistency and more productivity? Everybody has to raise their game to some degree at the edge position group for the Buffalo Bills. And honestly, the interior D-line has to step it up as well. And they've had a good year. Ed Oliver's having a good year. Daquan Jones is having a phenomenal year. Tim Settle and Jordan Phillips, with what they've been as rotational players, the depth on the interior has been strong all year. They've been able to mitigate some injuries throughout the season, largely because Daquan Jones has been such a force. And then you've gotten contributions from Phillips and Settle when Ed Oliver was down. You're getting quality reps from the practice squad guys that are getting called up. The interior is going to have to step up as well. But for the purpose of this segment, we're going to focus on the edge position. And again, focusing on those young guys, because those are the ones who still have that ceiling that could potentially be something in the pass rush game. Gregory Rousseau, AJ Epinesa, and Boogie Basham. Everybody has to raise their game in some level, right? If you were fourth in the rotation and you were winning 1 out of every 10 times, now all of a sudden you're third in the rotation. You need to win 1 out of every 7. If you were third in the rotation before, now you're second. Now you got to start winning 1 out of 5, and so on and so forth. Whatever qualification you are using to measure effectiveness, the success rate there has to go up for at least one of them, but most likely all of them, because there's no one player that's going to replace Von Miller. He's one of the best football players in the entire NFL, let alone one of the best players at his actual position. And again, the role that he was brought in to occupy is the closer, the one just like literally like a baseball closer, like the one who gets brought in to be like, okay, cool, let's shut everything down and let's win this game. Let's go home, turn out the lights, it's over. When you lose your closer, you can still patchwork some things together with the bullpen, but it becomes, okay, who are we putting in against this type of hitter? Okay, this guy struggles against this kind of stuff, so let's put in this guy to match with him. You all of a sudden have to correct for a lot of variables and a lot of situations, because again, you have to patchwork together the loss of such an important player and such a quality player at that position. And that's what we're going to dive into in this part of Disguise coverage. And in this segment specifically, we're going to look into some game tape, starting to see what these guys can build upon for the rest of this year, again, in potentially mitigating the loss of Von Miller. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to share my screen here as we dive into some tape here on Disguised coverage. So the first piece that we're going to look at here actually is not this Greg Rousseau piece that I have queued up here. What we're going to look at first is this rep from Mr. AJ Epinesa. This was a tremendously impressive rep for me. Watching it live on the broadcast, I was able to tweet a slow-mo video of it on Twitter during the game or around after the game. We're going to watch it from the sideline angle first and then watch it from the end zone. When you look at it just from the sideline angle here, and I titled it AJ Epinesa runs the arc, so watch. You're just going to watch him beat the left tackle. Quickly, speed, Mac Jones has to evade, walks right into him. Again, you're just watching in real time. It's AJ Epinesa Just beats his guy. It's like, okay, good rep, good get off, speed, hand technique, sack. When you watch it from the end zone angle, watch the wrist control that AJ Epinesa exhibits on this play. His two best attributes, in my estimation, in my evaluation, have been his get off, his quickness off the line, and his hand technique. He's got active hands, he's got strong hands. But what he shows on this play, the wrist control against the tackle, he takes off. Watch right there. I'm going to stop it right there so you can see. AJ Epinesa literally has his right wrist on the wrist of the outside arm of the tackle. He's got him completely locked up and he's got him grabbed. Now watch what he does. He uses that wrist control and he uses that grab to pull himself through the arc. And that's how he gets around the edge. And Mac Jones has to evade because of Basham bringing some pressure on the other side. And all of a sudden you get a sack. So you see it from the side angle and it's just like, okay, he beat his man around the corner. But when you break it down and you look at it from the end zone, this is tremendously impressive. This is Von Miller-esque. A lot of people said it on Twitter after I tweeted the clip. This is a very quality, technically sound rep from AJ Epinesa to be able to have that hand-eye coordination, establish that wrist control, and pull yourself through the arc by winning with that wrist control. This is very impressive and something very positive to build upon. Again, this is something newer in his game, but this type of hand technique and him winning with his hands has been present in his game. Even when he's been generating sacks these past couple of years, you're seeing him win with his hands, whether it's just a swipe or a quick chop. It's his hand technique that has been his calling card for when he's been able to generate consistent pressure off the edge. Really quality rep from AJ Epinesa. One more time. Want to go through it in slow-mo. Got the quick get off. Boom. Grabs the wrist. Pulls himself through. You can even see the tackle dip because Epinesa pulls himself through and he walks himself into a sack. Also, what I wanted to highlight on this play, I like the design on this one. This isn't specifically AJ Epinesa related or even Basham related. Watch Matt Milano here. He's going to rush and he's going to occupy the right tackle. And then as he sees Ramondre Stevenson leak out of the backfield, he stops, he pops, he drops out to take away that potential hot throw. But that rush is what allows Boogie Basham to come in free off the edge. So again, keep an eye right here on these two, Basham and Matt Milano. Boom, Basham comes in free. Milano pops out to take away the hot. That's nice design and nice execution as well. The AJ Epinesa piece is the highlight on this one, but that's a quality rep that you got there from Milano and Basham as well, and a quality design and quality call at that time. Now, I'm going to continue with some AJ Epinesa pieces. Let's go to our next clip. The next clip here is a run stop from AJ Epinesa. I'm going to scroll to it. Boom, there we go. Again, we're going to look at it from the sideline angle first. This is an area where Epenesa has somewhat struggled a bit. He's got a 63-point-something missed tackle percentage on the year. It's not a ton from a volume perspective. He's only got 7 missed tackles on the year. The leaders on the team from a volume perspective and missed tackles are DeMar Hamlin and Matt Milano, each with 14, I believe. But again, from a percentage standpoint, considering how many snaps he sees, those 7 missed tackles, it leads to a high missed tackle percentage. But he corrected for that a bit in this game. And what's been frustrating with him on the year is you're seeing him make plays and get into the backfield against the run, and then he just doesn't finish, right? You even saw it a couple times in this game. Actually, you saw it from several players on the defensive line for the Bills, getting to Mac Jones, but not being able to bring him down and get home, in theory, holistically. But AJ Epinesa has seen that in the run game as well, getting into the backfield, not being able to bring the running back down. Doesn't happen on this one. So let's take a peek at it from the sideline in real time. Watch him shed the tackle, get underneath, bring down Ramondre Stevenson, which is also impressive in and of itself because Ramondre Stevenson is a horse. He's 6 foot, 230 pounds. He's got speed. He's got low center of gravity. He's got power. This is an easy play from AJ Epinesa here, but this is a quality run stop. Let's look at it from the end zone angle. First piece, as I have labeled here, watch him how he eyes the tight end. Then he's going to stack and shed that left tackle. But the eyeing the tight end piece is key. This could be a potential crack toss scenario. He doesn't know if that tight end is potentially coming down on him a little bit and is going to crack him. So on the snap, watch Epinesa snap. He eyeballs that tight end, especially because Jonnu Smith takes that initial little step inside. So Epinesa eyeballs it, sees that he's not coming, gets his hands on him, then starts to get outside for that contain piece. Gets his hands inside on Brown. Look at the leverage established and look at the extension. That's beautiful. Low man wins. It's one of the many proverbial adages in I think that's whatever, doesn't matter. One of the proverbial adages in football, low man wins. Epenesa gets lower than Brown. Look where his hand position is on the inside of his man, inside that chest. He's in control of his man right now. And then he's also getting that extension and he's getting his eyes into the backfield so he can see what's going on with the running back. And doing all of that simultaneously allows him to shed his man and use his own momentum against him because he's established hand control and because he's established leverage, sheds his man, then gets underneath and makes the play. You also have nice pursuit coming over the top from Matt Milano. You have good run support coming from Xavier Rhodes. This is a quality snap for AJ Epenesa against the run. These are what you need to see more of going forward. Not only beating your man at the line of scrimmage, but bringing your man down in the backfield. And again, this is something, the first part, we've seen this part somewhat regularly this year for AJ Epenesa when he's been in there. Him beating his man and getting into the backfield, that right there isn't rare for AJ Epenesa. But this next part has eluded him, actually being able to physically make the tackle in the backfield. This needs to happen more. He's the one, I think he has more pass rush upside and more pass rush productivity, presence in theory right now than Boogie Basham does with how strong his get off is and his hand technique and the pass rush plan that he does operate with. But you're going to need him to be able to still function within the run game and be able to make plays like that. And again, this is a good one. Eyeballing the tight end, recognizing where your man is, beat him with leverage, stack, shed, make the play in the backfield. Good quality rep from AJ Epenesa, one that we're going to need to continue to see more of going forward. This next clip, we're going to go to the last play of this game and show Mr. Boogie Basham. He lost weight this year. Coming into this year, they wanted to see him focus more on the edge a little bit, but his best reps, not completely this year, but he's had some strong reps again when he's been kicked into the interior of this defensive line. If you want to go with the proverbial, NASCAR type of package or whatever, where you have defensive ends or edge players lined up on the interior, you're going with like 4 edges across the line. He's lost weight, but he still doesn't have that holistic quickness or explosiveness that allows him to take tackles around the arc and beat them upfield and beat them around the edge. But he does have the quickness and agility inside to beat interior offensive linemen with his agility and with his quickness. And that's what happens on this play. This is honestly gorgeous, the agility and the technique from Boogie Basham on this play. We're going to play it in real time. Whoop! Beats his man in a heartbeat. And then this is where you see Mac Jones being elusive, and eventually he runs for forever and avoids Jordan Phillips and just keeps running, but he has nowhere to go, so he just throws the ball away and becomes nothing. But again, that's not the focus. The focus is Boogie Basham. On the snap, so he's lined up in a 4-eye. That's the technique for where he's lined up. You just go by the even numbers here. Head up on the center is a 0. Head up on the guard is a 2. Head up on tackle is 4. And he's on the inside shade, so you have a 4-eye right there. Watch the initial step, comes off the ball. He sells upfield. He gets 71 to open up a little bit, and he steps to that right side. He commits to that right side a bit. And then you just get the real quick, the step inside, the quick arm over or swim right there. He does not get touched. He is by his man before he even gets a hand on him. The hand for 71 is on the back of the shoulder of Boogie Basham. This is a very quality rep from Boogie Basham. Now, this is what we need to see more of. His flashes are fewer and farther in between than AJ Epenesa and then Greg Rousseau. I think right now, Greg Rousseau, everyone knows about his run-stopping prowess and what he's able to do on the edge against the run. He's shown a bit more from a pass rush productivity standpoint as well, showing some pop in that area. But Basham's best trait is probably his motor and his relentlessness, and that doesn't always work consistently. It's hard to just beat guys with effort and beat guys with motor. Not Devin Singletary, just motor like your effort and your engine. And if you can kick him inside and get him those matchups, especially later in the game with this rotation on the defensive line, keeping him fresh and allowing him to potentially take advantage of bigger, heavier body dudes on the interior who are potentially tired after playing an entire game of football, and he's seen less snaps and he's fresh, you might be able to win that matchup even more so because of that, but let alone because of his skill set. His skill set still lends to him being more of a pass rush presence on the inside because his technique and his speed isn't there enough to consistently win around the edge and be able to run that arc. But this right here, this is beautiful. Sell upfield. As soon as he sees 71 commit, again, you see him starting to step with that right leg. Boom. 71's feet are too close together. He's beat. There's no way he's recovering. This is over. This is over. If this was a wrestling match, 71's manager is thrown in the towel because this is done. Basham gets right through. Ooh. Real quick arm over. Nice and tight. No wasted movement. Everything is quick, sudden, decisive. Bang, bang, bang in the backfield. Nice quality rep from Carlos Basham. His, again, fewer and farther in between than what we saw in that first clip from AJ Epenesa, but nonetheless, something that we need to continue to see from him going forward. Again, trying to make the loss of Von Miller, as non-hurtful as possible, even though it's going to hurt no matter what. Now we're going to move on to some Gregory Rousseau tape. Let's look at Mr. Groot here. This one's a nice rep. Again, doesn't result in a sack, but this is Gregory Rousseau using his length and using his strength and leverage to literally walk the right tackle back into the backfield on Mac Jones. So I have Rousseau highlighted right there. Comes off the snap. Just watch him drive his man back. Drives his man back. And then he reaches, doesn't get Mac Jones. Again, Mac Jones was slippery in this game. He evaded a lot of pressure, a lot of potential sack opportunities. Watch Rousseau again, get underneath his man, drive, drive, drive. He's got that tackle on skates. Let's look at it from the end zone angle. Again, because of that wide alignment, that creates an island for the offensive lineman. So this tackle is basically going to be in a one-on-one scenario. He gets some kind of chip help from Ramondre Stevenson, but that's his only source of support because of this wide alignment. He's going to have to go out there and meet Greg Rousseau. It's going to be a one-on-one scenario in some way, shape, or form. And again, Rousseau wins with length and he wins with leverage. Watch him comes off, avoids any chip help, gets even with the tackle, which is hard because Rousseau is tall. And again, like we saw in the first clip with AJ Epenesa, we saw that extension. We saw that establishing of leverage. Look at that. 75 is done. He's on skates. Groot has the leverage advantage. He's got full extension, and he's just pressing him at this point and drives him back to the backfield. 75 never gets his feet established. Watch 75's feet. Isn't able to anchor out. Isn't able to get hands on Groot. Isn't able to do anything to impede the movement. That's because of the length, the leverage, and the speed which Groot operates with. Drive your man back. Collapse the pocket. That's going to be his best opportunity at generating pass rush pressure. He's got some more moves this year. He's got the ability to potentially cut inside or win around the arc. His best move is still establish leverage and compress the pocket. Drive your man back. Compress the pocket. Watching in slow-mo. Boom. Drive your man through. Be nice if they could get the sack. You see Lawson looping around a little bit. You see some of that limited athleticism on him. But this is a quality rep from Groot, seeing that ability for him to just put his man on skates and drive him back into Mac Jones. Again, something that we've seen more from him. We need to see more of it going forward. All of a sudden, he's edge one. Now, he's not the Robin to Von Miller's Batman. He's got to be Batman now, or he's got to be some semblance of it. He's the number one edge on this team, probably from a snap standpoint and from an expected level of production standpoint against both the run and the pass. You're going to need to see that level of production more from him going forward. Another one that we're going to show from Mr. Gregory Rousseau came in the second quarter. 5 minutes and 27 seconds left. If I could find it. There we go. This is a nice one. So Groot has the BCR responsibility on this one. And that, for those of you who don't know, the vernacular, that stands for bootleg, counter, reverse. So basically, if a run is going away from you, you can't just completely fly down the line and crash down the line of scrimmage. You have to be that responsible piece on the back end in case it's a counter run and the run comes back your way with the running back. In case there's a wide receiver looping around and it's a reverse, you have to honor that action. Or in case the quarterback bootlegs, you have to be the one to green light and kind of rush the quarterback there so we can't just roll out and just have, tons of space. Groot does this very well. His BCR ability has been one of his stronger points, playing on the edge. Again, even just as a rookie, but this year as well, it's carried over. So I have him highlighted there. Watch what happens on this play. They're going to motion the tight end. We're going slow motion here. So Groot comes off the line of scrimmage. He's got BCR responsibility. He sees the fake pitch and immediately attacks and gets upfield. Beats the block from the inside man, forces the early throw. Edmonds cleans it up. Now watch it in real time. Watch as soon as Groot diagnoses it and then explodes. Right? Bang, gets upfield. Green light onto the quarterback, affects him, hurries him, makes him dump it off short. The Bills defense rallies and tackles. This is an example of his processing, his ability to diagnose in real time. I don't know him personally, but in just studying the tape last year and this year, I think one of the aspects of Gregory Rousseau's game that doesn't get talked about enough is his football IQ. He's a good processor of the game in real time, both in terms of his accuracy processing, but also in terms of his quickness in processing. He's got a good head on his shoulders, and it speaks to his understanding of the game at just, again, such a young age and young still in his career at playing the position. Like, he's still green in terms of being an edge, not only in the NFL, but in football. You know, he wasn't an edge in high school and it doesn't have a ton of college reps under his belt. So being able to see him process and diagnose like this is a really good piece to his game. Again, sees it, splits, boom, gets upfield. Watch it from the end zone angle. Head in the backfield. He's watching for it. This one you can really see. So he even watch his initial step. It's a little more to our right, but he sees the action of the line. So you see him lean a little bit and then crash down, but then slow plays it a bit because he sees the flash of color from the tight end coming back his way. Understands his responsibility, and then watch him change his angle. It's all about the angle too, right? Angles in pass rush, angles in your run fits, angle to the ball carrier and your pursuit angles. It's not just being fast. It's not just being strong. It's not just diagnosing. You have to take a proper angle to the ball. Watch how he gets almost straight up field and impacts Mac Jones right away. He cuts off Mac Jones. There's nothing there. And again, watch. Slow play, bang. Puts his foot in the ground, gets upfield, pass to the quarterback. It also helps that he's huge, so he takes like 2 steps and he goes like 5 yards in 2 steps. So it helps to be able to have that size and that ability. But this is more of what we're going to need to see continuously from Gregory Rousseau. That ability to affect the game in a multitude of ways. It's not just going to be, stats and raw box score numbers. It's not just going to be sacks, tackle for losses, and stops. It's this ability to affect the game and be a supportive piece in doing his 111th. This doesn't really show up on the stat sheet other than a pressure. But the highlight of this play is, okay, cool. Like, Edmonds reads it, diagnosis, scrapes over the top. He and Milano play together, and Jonnu Smith gets smacked. But it only happens because Rousseau, with his responsibility on this play, diagnoses this play, green lights on the quarterback, gets upfield, and forces this early throw. And then Edmonds and Milano clean up a little bit on the back end. Again, these aren't the end-all, be-all, but these are representative of what Gregory Rousseau has been this year when healthy, what AJ Epenesa has been this year in spurts, and what Carlos Basham, Boogie Basham, has been in spurts. All three of these guys need to step up in their game. Shaq Lawson, again, he is what he is. And what he is a quality piece for this Buffalo Bills team, right? His ability to set the edge, his ability to give you some pass rush pop, his ability to function in games, whether he's the spiker or the looper up front. And his veteran presence, his leadership, his energy, his attitude. He's a guy that adds some violence on that defensive line and the defense. Everybody's got to step up, Shaq Lawson included. But Groot, Epenesa, and Basham are the three that really need to take their game to the next level because they have a higher ceiling potential. We know what Lawson is. He's a lower ceiling, high floor guy. His role is important, but the guys are going to have to pick up the slack while they are all 4 of those edge guys collectively and the interior of the defensive line. Groot, Epenesa, or Basham, one of them, ideally all 3 of them, need to raise their game up in some quantifiable, measurable measure, increase their success rates, increase their effectiveness, and do more of what we've seen in these clips. Again, this wasn't just happening this one time. They've shown this in spurts and in flashes throughout the entire year. Now those flashes need to increase in terms of their frequency and not even just have it be about flashes. It needs to be a consistent piece of their game going forward. Again, not ideal that Von Miller's gone. It's a similar situation for me, that it was with Trey White last year. It's a significant hurdle towards trying to win a Super Bowl, towards trying to even get to a Super Bowl, let alone physically winning it. And, here's an excellent comment from Carl. I'll actually start it instead of clicking it. 1, thank you so much for being here, Carl. 2, thank you very much for the super chat. I sincerely appreciate you. Thank you very much. Carl says, we did not have Miller last year, and we were 13 seconds away from possibly winning it all. all of our D linemen are better just having Von in the room. That's true. They've learned from Von Miller, whether it was the pass rush summit in the offseason, whether it was through practice and games this year. And the piece and tying it together with last year, right? Again, I feel the same this year as I did last year with Trey White going down. Also, again, Micah Hyde being down is as well this year. The loss of Micah Hyde is significant. But when Trey went down last year, I didn't think the season was done. It was just a significant obstacle and hurdle in getting to a Super Bowl and potentially winning it. It's the same thing this year. Granted, yes, last year, I think that Kansas City game, not even the 13 seconds piece, but how the Bills played defense in that game and how vulnerable they were, I don't think that vulnerability is as severe if Tre'Davious White is in that game, both from a schematic and scheme versatility structure perspective, but also from a confidence in terms of what you're calling and how you approach the game perspective. If Trey is in there, I don't think 13 seconds happens. I don't think we get to a 13 seconds scenario. I don't think the Bills are giving up as many points as they did if Tre'Davious White is in there. Now, that being said, they didn't have Trey. And they lost the game, but for all intents and purposes, they had Kansas City beat and they should have won that effing football game, right? We all know what it is at this point. They didn't move forward. Losing Von Miller, just like losing Micah Hyde, those are significant blows to the Bills' championship aspirations. That does not mean the season is over. What it means is other players have to step up. The coaches have to step up. It takes a collective effort. It's going to take a village to replace somebody like Von Miller. Everybody's got to step their game up. The offense has to get better. The rest of the edges have to get better. The rest of the defense has to get better. Coaching's got to be on point. Everybody has to step their game up in order to mitigate a significant loss like that. Now, it's not impossible, but it is hard. It is an obstacle. It is a challenge. And we'll see if this team can meet it. Again, it's significant, but we'll see what it is going forward. And as Williams says, a lot of pressure on the Bills in this matchup, little on the New York Jets. I actually think there's a decent amount on the Jets. As Andy mentioned at the beginning of this episode, Andy Vasquez from NewJersey.com and from the Star Ledger with insight into the Jets, a team he's been covering for the last 7 years. The Jets are trying to make the playoffs, and they're in the midst of quarterback drama and trying to figure out their identity and what they're going to be the rest of this year, but also going forward at the quarterback position. I think there is some pressure on the Jets to win this game because they need to, one, continue to push for the playoffs because the AFC is getting a little dicey. But two, they need to try and figure out what they're going to be at quarterback, not only for this stretch run, but because that stretch run ties into who they are in 2023 and going forward if it's not Zach Wilson. So I do think there's more pressure on the Bills, but I think there is a decent amount on the Jets here. And again, especially because they beat the Bills the last time, I think they believe in themselves. We'll see what they could potentially become. Again, it's not going to be easy for them, but I do think there is pressure on them in this game. Autumn says, how would you say the Jets offensive line compares to the Pats? Banged up. I think I'd probably say the Pats line is better. Granted, the Pats line was injuries and sicknesses coming into the game and guys playing, but they're not at 100%. They're both kind of walking wounded mash units a little bit. But I would say overall the Pats line is better than the Jets, which isn't really saying much. But yeah, that's a fair question. Well done, Autumn. And Carl says, yeah, the Jets are 7-5. They don't want to lose and fall back into insignificantness, which is fair way to put it. Fair way to put it. Now, some pieces we're going to dive into specifically for this matchup and in this game. We're going to dive into some metrics and some more game tape as we focus on the Buffalo Bills versus New York Jets in this week. Now, one of the pieces, we already talked about one of them, Greg Rousseau. But in the Week 9 matchup against the New York Jets or New Jersey Jets, depending on how you want to define them, he played 14 snaps for the Bills in that game. That is the game where he hurt his ankle and he left early. Matt Milano did not play at all. He might not play again. Matt Milano was a DNP today at practice with a leg injury that seemingly kind of came out of nowhere. We'll have to monitor that injury scenario as we go forward. Also, Jordan Poyer didn't play in Week 9 against the Jets. Also, Tre'Davious White didn't play in Week 9 against the Jets. We heard what Andy said earlier in this episode talking about the emergence of Zonovan Knight, running back for the Jets, and how that stabilized that run game a little bit after Breece Hall went down. Michael Carter practiced in full today. He had a successful game against the Buffalo Bills in Week 9. The presence of Gregory Rousseau immediately helps the Bills' run game. In fact, with Rousseau and Lawson, your pass rush pop lowers a little bit. And again, Von Miller is a good run defender. I don't think he gets credit enough for it. But the run defense for the Bills in this game against the Jets should be solid with Shaq and Gregory Rousseau, even with AJ Epinesa, especially if Epinesa can make tackles. But, I see a super chat. I got to stop. Robert, thank you very much for being here. And thank you for the super chat. Sincerely, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Robert says, love to see the analysis on our edges outside of Von. Smart football people say edge rushers take time to develop, and it seems like Von is helping that. Oh, best content of the week is disguise coverage. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate that. That's super awesome to hear. That warms my heart. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I kind of want to just leave this comment up for forever. Thank you very much, Robert. I appreciate it. I also like Aiden's comment here where he says in all caps, no more playing on Thanksgiving for the Bills, please. I second that notion. It interrupts my holiday plans and my eating schedule. And also, I'm superstitious, so I feel like there's a curse at this point. But well said, Aiden. And again, Robert, thank you very much for the super chat and the donation. Rousseau's presence in a return for this game helps the Bills run defense. Again, last year he led all edges, even as a rookie, in stops and stop percentage last year. This year versus the run, he has the fourth lowest average depth of tackle at 0.4. His length, his strength, his football IQ, his ability to play with leverage is a huge boon for the Bills' run defense. His length allows him to almost play gap and a half at times, even when he's one gapping and trying to get penetration forward. You add in the presence of Matt Milano. Again, we'll see if he plays or not, but he's fast. He's instinctive. We know what Matt Milano is. He's a dog around the line of scrimmage and in coverage. He's disruptive. He is a chaos creator and a finisher. He's very good on his own, but he and Tremaine Edmonds each make each other better. They play off of one another. Their skill sets and their play styles complement one another. Milano being in there is a boost because he's better than any other linebacker the Bills have on the roster, but then also it's a boost to Tremaine Edmonds. So you put him in there and both of their stocks go up. Jordan Poyer is a walking impact play waiting to happen. He's tied for fourth on the year in interceptions with 4. He's only 2 behind the leader at 6, and he's only played in 8 games. So he's averaging an interception once every 2 games. And he could have had another one in this Patriots game if he was able to hang on to that ball as he toe tapped when he picked off Mac Jones, but he just bobbled it a little bit. He could easily have 5 in 8 games. So what we're going to do is, this is awesome. Mark says the Bills need to disguise coverage this week. Oh, I'm appreciating all the kind words. Richard, thank you very much. Folks, I appreciate you guys. And ladies, thank you very much. Dobbs, appreciate you. He says the trees look awesome. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Also, major shout out to my wife. She is head of tree decorating / setup. She's the operations and the brains behind it all. I'm just the handsome face and the talent. Although I do have input, but yeah, major shout out to the wife. Richard, I appreciate you. He says Poyer's an animal, but that was a pick, by the way. I don't think it was. When he hit the ground, the ball bobbled. You can even see DeMar Hamlin put his hands on his head like, oh, because he saw it firsthand. When I saw the replay, I immediately thought it wasn't going to be an interception. I wasn't shocked when it got overturned. He got both feet down, but when he hits the ground, that ball comes loose a little bit. Now, if we want to debate the philosophy of what a catch is today, I think that's a conversation for like a larger scale conversation for another time. But by how they rule catches today, I did not think it was a catch and I didn't think it was an interception. But we'll see going forward, but I appreciate you. So what we're going to do, yeah, exactly. Richard says it did move, but damn, it's getting a little critical. But that's what it is. Like if that ball bobbles at all, if it moves a little bit and separates from the body, you're losing it. Or you might not because people don't really know what a catch is anymore. It's a wild time to have such a simple thing be such a division in terms of decision making, but nonetheless. So with the potential return, again, versus what they had in week 9. So you have the return of Gregory Rousseau. Ideally, Matt Milano, we'll see what happens with him throughout this week, and Jordan Poyer, and also Tre'Davious White. I think his snap count is starting to ramp up a little bit. He's getting on a higher pitch count each game. I think he might even play the whole game this week against the Jets. We'll see what happens. That adds something as well. But I really wanted to get into some of the film from the Patriots game, again, on the defensive side of the ball for each of these 3 players. Again, Rousseau, Milano, and Trey White. Oh, Dobbs says, how hurt is Milano? I just heard about it today. What the heck? Yeah, the injury bug continues to spread. On the Buffalo Bills, he's got a leg injury, did not practice today. We'll see what happens going forward if, we get more clarification. But all we know is that right now, Matt Milano did not practice today. His status for the game is somewhat in question. But I wanted to dive into the tape from the Pats this week. as we start to fully break down the Buffalo Bills versus the New York Jets, because there were a lot of good things from Greg Rousseau, Matt Milano, and Jordan Poyer, and also pieces that also are applicable to this game coming up against the Jets, and really applicable to any game going forward. But nonetheless, let's share some of the tape here on this episode of Disguised Coverage. Going to go back, show some of the tape. Let's go to the first play here. The first play is in the first quarter, very first play of the game. This is a highlight for Greg Rousseau. We showed one earlier. We showed what he can do in the pass rush game. We showed him on some BCR responsibility. This is him just fitting the run. An aspect of his game, like I mentioned, he led all edges last year in stops and stop percentage. This year, he's fourth in terms of the lowest average depth of tackle at 0.4, and it shows on plays like this. He's a mismatch against the tight end, closes this down immediately. And Ramondre Stevenson's coming with a pretty good head of steam. Again, Ramondre Stevenson is a talented back. He's good. He is a legitimate RB1 type of guy, not just from a fantasy perspective. But he's also 6 feet, 230 pounds. He's fast. He's got a low center of gravity. He's got power. He runs hard. He's a large man. It's not easy to tackle somebody like that. And this is, again, an example of Rousseau using his length and his strength. Watch him close down the gap on the inside. Because he's got that size, you see him peeking over the shoulder of Hunter Henry there. He's able to see into the backfield. He's reading what's going on. This is where the length comes in. Watch him his arm basically covers the entire width of this gap, and then he brings down Ramondre Stevenson with one arm. This is not easy. This is not normal. Stevenson is 6 feet, 230 pounds, and he runs hard. And Rousseau just brings him down, halts his momentum, takes him down. Also, shout out to Milano, sealing the edge a little bit there, making Stevenson force back inside instead of being able to bounce it. And then Rousseau, you start to see that extension a little bit, comes off his man, is able to maintain responsibility, and takes Stevenson down. That is a quality rep from an important player. Again, there's Greg Rousseau. Watch him engage, shed, bring down his man with one arm. Length and strength and leverage all in one play. Oof, that's just a good play when you have a guy who can almost function by themselves. Now, let's go to another play here for the defense. This next play is going to highlight Matt Milano and Greg Rousseau. This play is also from the first quarter with 7 minutes and 22 seconds left in it. Have them both highlighted right here. Rousseau on the edge, Milano behind him in an off-ball position. This is just an example of them fitting the run, doing their 111th. That's a big piece as well, right? So this defense, they're good individually. They have good individual players, but all of the players, when things are really clicking, they are a sum of the parts defense. Not that I'm saying I'm knocking them individually, but everybody does their job. They function as a larger grouping, like how Voltron forms, or like a Megazord in Power Rangers vernacular there. Everybody does their job. They do their 111th. Even if that means not getting the tackle or not getting the sack or not getting the interception, they make plays, this defense collectively, so that others can succeed. Rousseau and Milano and Poyer also fall into that. So having them back for this game is a huge boost, because the Bills defense played well in week 9 against the Jets, and they didn't have these three guys. Again, they had Rousseau for 14 snaps, but no Milano, no Poyer. Look at him set the edge. Between the two of them, there's nowhere to go. Milano comes up, takes on the tight end. Watch him get his eyes in the backfield. Move Hunter Henry, get free, make the tackle. Look at it from the end zone angle. Again, just engaging in your run fits. Rousseau takes his man. Look at him work through. Watch Rousseau. Rousseau is right here. Watch his head as he works through contact here on engagement and then strains to get his neck around and get his head in the backfield. He's in this gap. Stevenson's got to bounce it, but he can't bounce it outside because Milano has set this edge. So there's nowhere to go out here because Milano is in this gap. He's got position. He's got his head. He's got his shoulder. He's got his body in there. If Stevenson bounces it, it's not going to make any sense for him. There's nowhere really to go. So Stevenson's going to press, and he's going to cut up in between the tight end and the tackle. But that's where Milano, who's already starting to get extension, he disengages and he forces himself back inside into that inside gap, inside of the tight end, gets free, makes the tackle. Is a little bit of a nail to Ramondre Stevenson's hammer, but he brings him down. That's it. Fit the run. Fit the run. You got Edmund scraping over from the backside. You've got Oliver pursuing. You've got Taron Johnson pursuing and staying clean, fit the run. Milano and Groot help elevate the Bills' defensive performance overall, but especially against the run. Terrell Bernard, I don't think had a bad game the last time against the Jets, but it's just hard to expect anybody to make those plays that Matt Milano plays. Matt Milano is that disruptor. He causes havoc that allows others to succeed, or how many times have we seen him shoot the gap and make a play in the backfield, or shoot and make a tackle for a loss on a screen or something like that? He's fast, he's instinctive, he makes a lot of plays, and they work well together. Again, the whole pieces, all these pieces of the defense work together in conjunction with one another. Again, this is a support piece. Milano is the one who gets the tackle, but it works because what happens on the interior, way Rousseau, look how Rousseau squeezes this down, forces his man, doesn't make this gap wide for Ramondre Stevenson to go through. Stevenson almost has to slither through it, and it makes it easier for Milano to close it down from the outside and make the tackle here. So good play from these two. Question coming through. Forgive my ignorance. What does BCR mean? BCR references the responsibility of bootleg, counter, and reverse. So a clip that I showed earlier in this episode for Greg Rousseau when he got a pressure on Mac Jones and Jones had to dump it down to the tight end on the slide route. Rousseau comes off the edge and the run is a zone run going the other way, but Rousseau just can't crash down and make a tackle on the run. If it's a run, he's got a hold on the backside a little bit in case it's a bootleg from the quarterback, in case it's a counter and the running back cuts back, or in case it's a reverse coming back his way. So very fair, very fair, very fair. Good question. Also, you don't have to say forgive your ignorance. I enjoy the educational piece of this. So if you have a question, feel free to shout it out. No judgment. Judgment-free zone here. Next clip is a Matt Milano clip with a bit of Gregory Rousseau. This is from the second quarter at the 4-minute and 58-second mark here as we bring it through. I'm going to pause it here. So again, support. It's not, especially when you're in your run fits. I think a lot of people in an ideal world, yes, someone is making the tackle, but run fits aren't just about coming forward and making the tackle. Sometimes your job isn't just to come forward and make the tackle. Sometimes it's to fit a gap in a certain way to force the ball carrier to go somewhere else, to allow someone else to make the play. It's not just about coming forward and making a tackle. Sometimes it's about doing the dirty work that allows someone else to get the tackle and allows someone else to succeed. So let's watch this Matt Milano play. Cuts off that's a good tackle from Tremaine Edmonds. Well, you see what Milano does there? Watch him make a beeline to cut off the outside because he knows he has pursuit coming from Tremaine Edmonds. That pursuit is coming from the inside. That's why you always want to kind of force everything back to the middle. Wherever your help is coming from, you either want to spill the run, which means you force that run to bounce outside, or you want to force it back inside. So you want to cut off the part where, again, it's not crazy. It's not science. Well, a little bit of science, maybe a little bit of numbers or math or geometry or spacing, but you want to force the ball carrier back towards where your help is, wherever that may be. It could be outside. It could be inside, wherever. So here you have Milano on this play. Again, watch him beeline, reads it, and he sees the puller coming through. So he beelines it. Tries to take away the outside. Actually doesn't do the best job of it. The offensive lineman gets into him a little bit, but if the run bounced, Milano is in decent position to kind of cut it off a little bit here. But his flash, regardless, forces the cutback into his buddy, Tremaine Edmonds, who's scraping, and it makes a beautiful tackle. Forceful, solid contact. Boom. Also, shout out to Jordan Phillips on this play right here. You see the blue sleeves and the blue shirt. Watch the penetration and the push that he gets on the snap. This center who is snapping the ball, he's trying to come and pull and come and support on this run here. He can't because Phillips knocks his man back right into that center. Boom. 75, can't down block him fast enough and wash him down. Phillips gets into the center. So this center who was supposed to come and support here, he's caught in the wash and he can't do anything. So now all of a sudden they're trying to add gaps to this side with multiple pullers. Now they only have one and the Bills have the gap advantage. Boom. Let's watch from this side again. Feel free to keep an eye on this center here as he tries to pull and just gets knocked back because Phillips goes through his man. That starts this whole process of doing your 111th. Boom. 60's cut off. The works are gummed up a little bit. You see Milano. And again, this makes sense from Stevenson. You can kind of see it a little bit from Stevenson's perspective. Milano scraping over the top. He's attacking the outside of 71. Okay, let me cut it back inside and right into where Tremaine Edmonds is waiting. I could see some people saying, oh man, look at Milano. He's getting blocked on this play. Like, terrible. No. You're not always going to make the tackle in a run fit. Sometimes your job is to be a sacrificial piece and do your 111th. And Milano does that on this play, right? Beelines it, reads run, keeps an eye on 15 on Aguilar to make sure he's not coming down to crack on him. Actually, I'll go back in case anybody missed it. Watch Milano give a quick glance. Oh, you're not cracking. Okay, cool. I keep flowing. Tack outside a little bit. Force this inside. Boom. Edmonds is waiting. Also, who's this over here? Mr. Gregory Rousseau. Watch him again. Not easy to block him with the tight end. Keeps an eye on his man. Shakes him. Takes one step and is right there. Run defense. Against a team that wants to run the ball like the New York Jets, it's going to be paramount for the Bills to play that solid run defense piece and for guys to do their job. Now, let's go to another piece. Third quarter, 9 minutes and 17 seconds in the third quarter. Oh, this is a ridiculous play from Jordan Poyer. This is the interception that was not to be, but it's not the interception piece that is the highlight here for me. It's getting there. It's the range from Jordan Poyer on this play. So on this play, the Bills are in cover 3, and Poyer is shaded to the passing strength. I'm just going to let this play initially. Dude is on his giddy up. This range is absolutely nuts. Watch where he is. Okay. Poyer's here. He's going to pick up Henry coming across the field. Watch him beeline. Watch the angle, the speed, the burst, the click and close, the range, just nuts. Mac Jones gets away from A.J. Epenesa. Again, something that Epenesa needs to work on is missed tackling ability. Ridiculous. Watch Poyer. Reads it, closes. This would have been such a highlight if he comes away with the interception. Instead, it's just a play that doesn't show up except on the tape. Look at the angle. Again, that's a huge part. If he bends it too much or if he's too shallow and Henry gets in front of him, the speed and the read is kind of almost irrelevant. You have to diagnose it and have the athleticism and speed, and then also take the proper angle. Again, defense is geometrical at times, taking your proper angles to the ball. Shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, and just he's on damn near a straight line to cut this play off. Absolutely unreal. Shout out to Epenesa getting chipped or getting cut initially and then getting into the backfield, but like a lot of guys on this night, isn't able to bring down Mac Jones. Edmonds comes flying up, forces Mac to throw it. This isn't present in the Bills' safety room other than Jordan Poyer. Again, and Micah Hyde, but Hyde is out. Beautiful. That, again, like I said earlier, Poyer is just a walking impact play, whether it's against the run, whether it's against the pass, ball is in the air, ball is not. That's ridiculous. That is truly ridiculous. And as Autumn says, all pro Poe. That's, yeah. And as Rich says too, all the damn way to the other side of the field. Literally on here. One more time. He literally is coming from the other side. It's not even the opposite hash. He's between the numbers and the hash, and he just beelines it to cut off the tight end and make a play on the ball here. Absolutely gorgeous play from Jordan Poyer. Last play we're going to show here is from the fourth quarter, 13 minutes and 41 seconds into the fourth quarter. There's another Jordan Poyer play. I feel like he makes these plays almost every week. He made a play like this against the Browns, spinning down and making a play on a screen. This is, again, something he does with a decent amount of regularity. The Bills are in a too high shell here pre-snap. Poyer's going to spin down as the Bills shift to cover 3 on the snap. Again, he made a similar play to the Browns. As he spins down, he sees the path of the running back and the guard and diagnoses the screen. Then he clicks and he closes. We're going to look at it from the sideline and from the end zone, because in the end zone angle, you can see him playing the release of the running back and then reading the quarterback, processing and diagnosing all in real time. Beautiful. Let's watch. Again, too high shell. Starts to creep a bit on the snap, spins down, diagnoses, undercuts, bang. And bring, again, another player bringing down Ramondre Stevenson one-on-one, which again is not easy. And we saw some of these runs in the second half where Stevenson was just carrying dudes once he gets the ability to play behind his pads. So that's not an easy tackle to make. Again, coming down, okay. He's responsible for the running back here. He's responsible for the flats, but he sees that running back release and realizes, okay, like I may have to honor this. Then you see him right here. He goes from playing this, slow playing it, to right here, clicking and closing. Boom. Slow play, slow play. Oh, I see it. Bang. Let's watch it from the end zone angle. Again, you can see him process this. Look where his eyes are. Into the backfield here. You can see out of his peripherals the flash of color from Ramondre Stevenson, so that's why he starts to creep and lean towards this side. But he's watching Mac Jones, and he sees the pump. And as soon as that pump happens, he knows. Bang. Beats the lineman, makes the tackle. Very similar play that he made against the Cleveland Browns in a big moment. Dude's just a walking impact play, whether it's tackles for loss, whether it's plays in coverage, whether it's range or headiness and football IQ or athleticism or physicality. Just the difference that he makes in this game is going to be absolutely tremendous versus not having him in week 9 against the Jets. So having that addition of Gregory Rousseau and Jordan Poyer and fingers crossed Matt Milano, that's a big boon to this Buffalo Bills defense. Now, another piece we're going to talk about here as I stop the screen share here. Situational football in this game, the red zones and the third down pieces in this game, I think are something that really need to be noted in this game. So again, in week 9, when the Bills played the Jets, the Bills were 1 for 2 in the red zone. We know there was that interception from Josh Allen. The Bills offense on the year, they're 14th in red zone touchdown percentage at 56.52%. They are 26th in red zone DVOA, 24th in the pass, 26th in the rush. Now, the Jets defense, for as good as it is overall, they are 5th in overall defensive DVOA, 5th against the pass, 11th against the run. But the red zone defense is kind of meh. They're 17th in red zone DVOA, 8th against the pass, 31st against the run. The Vikings had 2 rushing touchdowns on them in the red zone this past week. When you get into the red zone against the New York Jets, run the ball. It helps that the Bills have started to find some success on the ground game with Devin Singletary, also with James Cook these past couple of weeks. Really helps to have the ability to run the ball at any point, but especially when you get into the red zone, especially against a defense that struggles in the red zone against the run, like the New York Jets. Matchup piece to watch. But now, again, continuing this conversation going forward, the Bills offense against New England Patriots, they were 3 for 3 in the red zone, 3 possessions, 3 touchdowns. We saw them break tendency with some run designs for a touchdown. We saw the live by the sword, die by the sword Josh Allen with that touchdown to Gabe Davis. And we also saw Stephon Diggs beat Jonathan Jones in man coverage for a touchdown. Now, a piece I want to talk about here, the microscope matchup that I want to label this as. So this is, again, going forward, this is going to be a piece in the show, a specific detail to focus on come game time. It could be large scale, could be granular, but again, it's a matchup within a matchup, a detail piece. Zach Rosenblatt from The Athletic, who I had on the previous episode when the Bills played the Jets back in week 9, he had a quote regarding Sauce Gardner playing in the boundary in the red zone. So there was a touchdown for Justin Jefferson against the Minnesota Vikings. And actually, I am going to start to grab it for you folks to be able to show you what's going on. So Justin Jefferson had a touchdown for the Minnesota Vikings this past week. And everybody was wondering why it was DJ Reed on him instead of Sauce Gardner for that touchdown. Again, Reed had an overall good game, and he's had a good year. So this is the play right here. Nothing crazy. Again, you can see Sauce is into the boundary. Justin Jefferson goes in motion. Sauce doesn't travel with him. Sauce comes down onto TJ Hawkinson, and you see Jefferson up at the top. He's going to get that matchup with Reed. Snaps it off right there. Cousins makes a good throw. Jefferson toe taps, touchdown. So this play was a question for some people, wondering why Sauce wasn't on Jefferson, why he wasn't playing into the field side. And Zach Rosenblatt's quote from Sauce Gardner was, quote, "In the red zone, I go to the boundary because that's usually where the ball goes. But Justin Jefferson wasn't lined up on the boundary on that play, but he was the play before." Well, he was the play before, though, end quote. I want to be exact there. So all but 2 of the red zone snaps versus the Vikings, Sauce Gardner was lined up into the boundary in the red zone, regardless of who was there. Like we just showed, he's lined up into that boundary. Versus the Bills in week 9, Sauce was lined up in the boundary on every single red zone snap against the Buffalo Bills. Didn't matter if Stephon Diggs was there, Gabriel Davis was there, if they were in trips, if it was the single receiver side, it did not matter. And that's a tendency that we are seeing throughout the entire year for the New York Jets. That is their belief. When they get down in the red zone, Sauce Gardner plays the boundary side. And the theory behind that is usually that's where the ball goes. And he isn't completely wrong. Now, again, not every team is going to the boundary every time. Otherwise, that would be a huge tendency giveaway, and everybody would key in on that for every team. But we saw the Vikings, go to the other side, go to the field side with the matchup of Jefferson onto Reed. This could be something that the Bills exploit, right? Maybe they get down into the red zone and you don't see Stephon Diggs to that boundary side. You see him to that field side, or you see them playing the strength to that field side and trying to break down DJ Reed or break down the anticipatory coverage that would come based on the situational tendencies that you are seeing and cluing in on. And again, this is also relevant because, like I mentioned earlier, Stephon Diggs' touchdown versus the New England Patriots came on a play into the boundary that, just in case everyone forgot, we'll show that real quick. Pull up the play, pull up the play. It's a cool song to sing. Stephon Diggs here. Again, as we move forward, this is Stephon Diggs down here, matched up with Mr. John Jones. Again, into the boundary, okay, from that near hash. This is beautiful from Diggs. Gets the snap, stacks Jones. Watch him sell this with his eyes and his body language. He becomes a merchant of deception here. Bang, pops it out. Jones is beat. So if this is against the Patriots, if this is against the Jets, this is most likely going to be Sauce Gardner, because Sauce Gardner is the corner to the boundary side. This is the field side. Literally just think more field over here, closer to the sideline over here. That's all that means. So that's a matchup to watch. That is the microscope matchup for this game. Seeing that red zone matchup, an area where the Buffalo Bills have struggled. We went over it last week. We went over the EPA difference in Josh Allen from non-red zone scenarios to the red zone. And now we have a piece coming into this game, again, showcasing what the Jets defense and Bills offense has been in the red zone overall. You got to figure out a way to continue to get into the end zone if you are the Buffalo Bills in the red zone. And that's a key piece, right? Sauce Gardner is tremendous. So if you're playing coverages and you're playing tendencies and you're trying to diagnose what's going on and attacking your opponent's weaknesses, knowing that Sauce Gardner is typically lined up into the boundary in the red zone could be a clue and advantage for the Buffalo Bills. Look for that in this microscope matchup for this Sunday. Every time the Bills are in the red zone, look to see where Sauce Gardner is. Most likely he's going to be into the boundary, or maybe because reporters picked up on it this week and it got talked about a little bit. Maybe they flip the script and he goes into the field more. So a chess piece and matchup, kind of one of those like, I know what you know that I know type of thing. And we'll see what happens. Also, on the other side, red zone, as we continue this conversation, versus the Vikings. The Jets outgained the Vikings 486 to 287. They were 1 of 6 in the red zone. They lost this game 27 to 22. On the year, granted, majority of the year has been a non-Mike White offense for the majority of the year. The Jets are 26th in red zone touchdown percentage at 48.65. They're 28th in red zone DVOA offensively, 28th in the pass, 21st in the run. The Bills' defense in the red zone, very good. First in red zone DVOA, 5th against the pass, 1st against the run. Red zone usually tells the story for a lot of games. And we saw it rear its ugly head with the Bills turning the ball over in the red zone against the Jets in week 9, and then turning the ball over in their own end of the field and giving the Jets a red zone opportunity. When you get down to the red zone, you got to get 7 or got at least 3. You can't come away with 0. But you saw what happened in week 9. And then again, just what happened to the Jets this past week, another example of it. That's wild. The Jets outgained Minnesota 486 to 287. They almost had 200 full yards more than the Vikings, but they lost by 5 because they were 1 of 6 in the red zone. Can't happen. Another situational piece, third downs versus the Minnesota Vikings. Again, I'm using this game for the Jets as a barometer because 1, it was the most recent, and 2, it's another Mike White game. His first game was against a depleted Bears team in the rain. So that throws even more variables into a situation that already lacks sample size this year because he's only started 2 games. But versus Minnesota, the Jets on third down, they were 3 of 16 on third down. 3 of 16. That's an 18.8 conversion percentage, which is absolutely awful. On the year, the Jets offense, 29th in third down conversion percentage at 32.93%. They're 32nd in DVOA on third and fourth and short, which is 1 to 2 yards. They're 21st on third and fourth and mid, which is 3 to 6 yards. And they're 9th, which is pretty good, on third and fourth and long, which is 7 or more yards. Overall, on third and fourth down, the Jets are 26th in DVOA in those areas specifically, and then holistically. And again, red zone and third downs killed the Jets against the Vikings. They lost by 5, and they were 1 of 6 in the red zone and 3 of 16 on third down. Absolutely horrible. Legitimately, absolutely horrible. That's an aspect that this team has not been able to master. Even again, you inject Mike White into this offense, and they go 3 of 16 last week. On the flip side, though, the Bills' defense is decent on third and fourth and short, but the rest on third down, kind of meh to below meh. The Bills' defense is 21st in DVOA on third and fourth down overall, 8th on third and fourth and short, again, 1 to 2 yards, 27th on third and fourth and medium, 3 to 6 yards, and 27th, again, on third and fourth and long. So third and fourth down, 3 yards or more, the Bills defense is 27th in DVOA. Not great. When you go back to that week 9 matchup, the Jets were 5 of 13 on third down versus the Bills. And more importantly, they were 2 of 2 on fourth down. So if you add them together, they were 7 of 15, almost a 50% conversion rate, which is very good. The Bills' offense on the year is first in third down conversion percentage at 51.75. So if you're hovering around 50%, that's towards the top of the league. That's fantastic. Between third and fourth down conversions in week 9 against the Jets offense, the Bills defense allowed the Jets offense to basically operate at 50% conversion percentage in that week 9 matchup. Does not help. We're, again, continuing to focus on this Jets offense. We talked about it a little earlier with Andy. Mike White, he's a good processor. He can get from 1 to 2 to 3 in his reads and his progressions. What was hindering this Jets offense was Zach Wilson and his inability to get off his first read, or his ability to panic when his first read would be taken away. Mike White can keep you on schedule. He can process and see what's happening and then be like, okay, it's not there. Let me check it down. So if it's a 1st and 10 throw, he might get you 7 or 8 or the first down, but at the very least, most likely, he's going to get you the check down and get you to 2nd and 6, 2nd and 5, give you an opportunity to kind of live for another day and fight for another day. He's a good fit for this Jets team with how good this defense is. They have a legitimate defense. We all know this at this point. If you didn't buy into the Jets defense before week 9, you should. Now, you should know their front is nasty. Another matchup piece, if the Bills' offensive line can't handle Quinn Williams and JFM and Huff and Carl Lawson and that whole crew, like they've got a squad of dudes up there that I almost didn't want to name anyone because they've got a good rotation, a la or similar to what the Bills do in terms of depth and how they function guys in. They have a squad up front. So this defense is going to keep them in games almost no matter what. You just need an offense that can move the ball a little bit, give the defense a rest, and not shoot themselves in the foot. Mike White is that guy. And he can pop some good throws out from time to time. I'm going to be posting some Mike White throws on Twitter in the coming days so you folks can see some of the quality throws that he really pushed forward and pushed through against the Minnesota Vikings in some tight scenarios and in some clutch moments as well. What you want to do against Mike White, you want to change that pre to post snap picture. You want to get him in third and long, and you want to make the pocket chaotic for him. What we showed earlier with Rousseau against Mac Jones, you want to collapse that pocket. Mike White is not the most fleet of foot. He's not tremendously elusive. Compress that pocket, close down that space, confine him to the pocket, and give him no area to operate. Make him have to find those checkdowns or process from 1 to 2 to 3 as quickly and as properly as possible. And if you're also coupling that with this guy's coverage and changing the pre to post snap picture, you have the opportunity to potentially create some interceptions, some tip balls to make him potentially double clutch and hold on the ball. Now all of a sudden you're getting sacks and potential tackles for loss or plays in the backfield. So there's a lot that can result. Again, that's similar to what you want to do against most QBs, but even more so with Mike White because he's not a big create off script or out of structure kind of guy like a Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or Herbert type quarterbacks today. We're looking at it from the flip side, again, focusing on that third down piece. The Bills' offense on the year, very good on third down. Like I said, first in third down conversion percentage at 51.75 on the year. They're third in DVOA on all third and fourth downs. 14th on third and fourth and short. First on third and fourth and medium. Sixth on third and fourth and long. Again, flip side to the Jets defense. Very good defense overall. A meh third down defense. They're 19th in DVOA on all third and fourth downs. 15th on third and fourth and short, 19th on third and fourth and medium, 18th on third and fourth and long. So two situational pieces that are huge. This Jets defense is very, very, very good, right? And the Bills defense is very good as well. The Bills defense is also good in the red zone. They're kind of meh to below meh on third down. The Jets defense, very, very, very good. Meh and not good against the run in the red zone. And then medium meh. Again, this is the mass scale. I'm just going to go with it on third down. You can get at this Jets defense on third down. They don't necessarily tighten up. They're beatable on third down. And they're also beatable, again, in the red zone, especially against the run. 31st against the run in DVOA for the Jets defense. So if you get in the red zone, maybe some Josh Allen runs, right? Could be as he starts to get a little healthier, but maybe some Motor Singletary, maybe some more James Cook. Maybe Naheem Hines finally gets the ball in a jet sweep and he's not just eye candy and he's not just motion, but look for the Bills to run the ball more and attack the Jets defense when it comes to the red zone and the run game. Oh, Bills Maniac hit it. You need to change your Christmas countdown. I didn't. You're right. I'm embarrassed. I'm deleting this episode and canceling it. I'm not, but I'm genuinely disappointed in myself. Good call out. Got to be better. I'll study the tape. This won't happen again. I'm embarrassed. I practice for these moments. It's just a shame. I feel like I let myself down. I feel like I let the team down. I feel like I let my wife down. I feel like I let you all down. I feel like I let little Fox and Snowman. Snowman's name is Mr. Snow. I feel like I let him down. But I'll be better. I'll be better. Or I could just Zach Wilson this whole thing and be like, it's not my fault. Or be like, oh, are you upset that you didn't change it? I could just be like, no. Who knows? But I appreciate your eye for detail and attention. Yeah. Appreciate you, my man. I'm seriously bothered by it. Good catch. Dang. And that's how we're going to end the show. On that note, I'm going to bring up the banner for Toodles, you guys. Just real quick, before anybody leaves, if you haven't already, we've had a very good crowd for tonight's episode. Please drop a like on this video. Please, 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 and thank you. If you enjoyed this content, if you enjoyed this episode, if you enjoyed Andy, if you enjoyed being in the live chat, if you enjoyed the film, man, autumn's coming from my head. Says Firehead Coach Ant. Man, that's on me. I take it. I take it in stride. It is what it is. I got to course correct. Got to be better. If you enjoyed this episode, please, 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 and thank you. I hate asking for it. I know it's corny, and I know it's corny to say that I hate asking for it and still asking for it anyway, and all the avenues and offshoots off of that. But please drop a like on this video. Likes are the lifeblood of live streams. Please, please, please drop a like on this video if you enjoyed this content. Please subscribe to Disguise Coverage here on YouTube. Please tell your family and friends and loved ones about this show, about the channel. Again, if you found it to be enjoyable. If you didn't find the show enjoyable, that's fine. Tell your enemies about the show and try and ruin their day. If you are listening on one of the podcasting apps or platforms, that's awesome as well. Please rate and review and subscribe on those podcasting apps and platforms. Subscribe here on YouTube. Please drop a like. Please, 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 and thank you. It's tremendously important. Go get yourself some one pie pizza. Oh, thank you, Autumn. I appreciate you very much. Thank you so much. And also, I appreciate your support on Twitter. Autumn, you're fantastic. Follow me on Twitter at pro__ant. That's pro, 2 underscores ANT. Give me a follow there. Also, if you're into the betting world, you're in luck because Cover One has some betting options for you with our partnership of BetUS. Let's talk about that right now, courtesy of Mr. Greg Thompson.
Hey guys, Cover One is excited to announce our new partnership with BetUS. BetUS has a live wagering on all major games, the best betting variety in the business, and an easy deposit and withdrawal process with the fastest payouts in the industry. Our loyal Cover One fans get a choice between 2 exclusive offers, either a 125% sign-up bonus on your first deposit up to $2,500 or a free $50 bet with no deposit required. Just use promo code COVER1 on the links provided in the show description below. BetUS, where the game begins.
Ooh, go check out BetUS. Use that promo code. Get yourself in on that betting action. Betting is a huge piece of sports now. Legalized gambling has taken over, and so we're very proud of that partnership to help you folks out. You support us. We like to get back as much as we can. Roy comes through. hit the like for the tree. Even if you hated me, and I love, there's 2 tree icons there. Why? Because we got double trees. We're double trees up in here, right? Recognize it. Thank you very much, Roy. Whether it's a like for the tree, like for myself, like for Andy or the content, whatever have you, please drop a like on this video. Again, I appreciate you folks. Appreciate all the kind words coming in the chat. I see them and I appreciate them tremendously. I hope you and your family and friends and loved ones, this is fantastic. I'm leaving this up on here. I'm going to leave the toodles off because this is fantastic from Dobbs. Dobbs says, Ant, the merchant of disguise. I love it. I love how you piggybacked off of my merchant of deception line from earlier. Well done. I hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well, staying safe, be kind to one another, take care of one another. I appreciate you folks all for joining me on this episode. If you were here live, thank you so much. Thank you to Carl and Robert for the super chat donations. Thank you for being here live, to everyone in the engagement with myself and Andy and the engagement with each other. If you watched us later, that's fine as well. Thank you very much for your post-live view, your post-live download, listen, whatever have you. Really appreciate you folks more than you will ever possibly know. Thank you very much for the support in any way, shape, or form. Please rate and review and subscribe on the podcasting apps or on YouTube. Please drop a like on this video. Bills Maniac says, 2 trees on the edge. I miss Vaughn. Pain. But there's some hope on the horizon. We'll see what Boogie and Groot and AJ Epenesa do this Sunday against a beat-up Jets offensive line. We'll see what happens with Milano and Poyer. There's a lot to focus on. There's some more stats and clips and film that I'll be tweeting out over the coming days leading up to the game on my Twitter, so I'm not just saying it as a shameless plug. Follow me on the old Twitter for more analysis, video clips, breakdowns, or if you just have questions in general, feel free to follow me on Twitter, get at me in the DMs or at me on Twitter, whatever have you. I appreciate you folks. Be kind to one another. Stay safe. I will see you next week. Godspeed. And as always, go Bills.